you activate your consciousness during the dream. So the funny thing is, I did an experiment about lucid dreams with, I don't really remember right now, my memory is not getting good, 2,000 people or 4,000 people, it was a lot of people, to activate your lucid dreams in less than 3 days. So I'm relating this information for the sleep, right? When we are awake, when we are sleeping, for that reason, we need to memorize the thing. We need to lower down the frequency to activate this information properly. So you go back and forth analyzing the information, because if you are like this, you are not analyzing, you are jumping. Half of the information, you lost it.
And in your sleep, for that matter, that's at least one way to think about sleep, when you dream. And we think about dreams, at least most people think about them as these really creative things, where all these things come together, that are sometimes impossible, or you don't even think they ever have happened to you. And you can think about it as these kind of uncoordinated system that, use all these bits from, some of them might have happened a long time ago and you never recall them. And they all come in this relatively uncoordinated way back to you, and then, create this new and interesting, jumble. More interesting, though, that's something that I would love to study. I just don't know how, as, other parts of dreams can be stories, right, that make perfect sense. So, and it's not a recall from what you have experienced. It's just a new story that you're telling yourself, but it's logical. It has, some kind of storyline, even if it's, a serial one, but there may be an interesting storyline to it. Why do we, dream in these very, very different ways? That's something that I find very fascinating.
How you activate your consciousness during the dream. So the funny thing is, I did an experiment about lucid dreams. We did an experiment or neurohacking the brain to activate your lucid dreams in less than 3 days, 3 nights. The Monroe Institute, what they did in 1 week, it was 12% of the people, right? We did in 3 days, 60% of the people, of 2,000 people.
Wow.
We are talking about big numbers. 60% of the people was lucid at the dreams and remember it. They remember that they were saying, oh, I'm dreaming, and not waking up, right? 20% of the people said that they believe that they were lucid, but they don't remember. But the brain believes that they were lucid. And the rest of the 40%, none. But the funny situation is how our brains work when we are lucid dreaming, because we activate the emotions in a different way. What you're seeing in the reference of the brain are the same that in the reality, right? So if they are dreaming in the REM state, maybe the brain, it look like open eyes and working, right?
I think the problem for us is to really, so we could measure the brain activity, right? That's easy for us. But then how to decode it, right? How to really get at the content of that. And so let's say you could measure, at least in theory, you could measure the same brain activity in two people. But I would argue that most likely the content of what that activity means is probably very, very different. And so I think that is the fundamental problem that we have. Probably if we would be able to, let's say, to really get the activity from the entire brain, and not only from, where the memory system is and so on and so forth, and where you see all this kind of, activity that's like wake-like activity. We may say, oh no, it will never happen that we would see, identical patterns in two people, which would not mean identical things, so that there would be really, a unique code. But I think that is our fundamental problem right now, that we are not able to basically decode content very well. So in order to remember that later on, to retrieve that information from memory systems, you need something that's called consolidation. And that happens typically during sleep. And what happens in the brain is that the brain will replay that information as it happened when you were taking in that information. The exact pattern that will be, during the night at some point reappear. And you may, have that during a dream or not. But that is something that you can measure. And then you can also measure the next day when you do a memory test with that person will remember that information that was replayed during the night in better ways than the information that was not replayed. So that information that was not replayed may be forgotten already. But these processes can happen over long periods of time. So it could be that, what you didn't replay the following night, maybe replayed 3 or 4 nights later. So it's not that necessarily, everything that you experience or that we experience today will be kind of replayed tonight. It could be replayed next week or so. That's another really great mystery, why, these systems kind of use very long timescales, and timescales that we also do not really understand very well. But there is kind of, this is the beginning to try to understand how content is coded in the brain.